When LeBron was in Miami, who did he have? One of the best shooters ever in Ray Allen. Then you have to look at what my boy Shane Battier did, or Mike Miller. I think 8 threes in a row. He's always had shooters around him because he was a facilitator. When he doesn't have shooters around, how can you be the best you can be? He's having a great season. It's not about him, but I do think it's about the talent that you have around him. And I think that if you win one championship in 4 years, that's the story. So this year really doesn't matter in the narrative to me, but to fans, I understand, because if it were me,
I've religiously looked at KD in recent memory. I'm like, he's the best in the world. He's the best in the world. Where I go back and forth between him and LeBron is for precisely the reason you just outlined.
The instant Chris Webber made that statement, the entire basketball world seemed to pause before erupting into a massive debate. It wasn't because his words were loud or disrespectful. It was because they felt brutally honest. 6 simple words landed like a knockout punch. You never won without calling a star first. Suddenly, LeBron James wasn't simply receiving praise anymore. His career and legacy were being questioned from an angle many fans weren't prepared to confront. And this wasn't just another random hot take from the media. These comments came from a Hall of Famer who understands the grind, the pressure inside a locker room, the politics that come with building a championship team, and the difference between creating something from the ground up and simply putting the right pieces together. Whether you agree with Webber or not, his comments take the conversation into an uncomfortable territory. And this is exactly where the story begins to get interesting.
A lot of ex-players think Kobe was better than LeBron. I disagree with them, but a lot of them think they don't say the rings, they say the killer instinct.
Here's the part almost nobody is discussing. This was never really about disrespecting LeBron James. It was about challenging the way we define greatness. For years, the GOAT debate has been reduced to championships, statistics, and unforgettable highlights. But Webber opened the door to something much deeper: the process, the decisions, and everything happening behind the scenes. And once you start looking at greatness from that perspective, it becomes impossible to ignore. The conversation is no longer just about what LeBron accomplished. Now, people are asking how he accomplished it. So let's break it down. When LeBron made the move to Miami, it wasn't some random decision. He teamed up with Dwayne Wade and Chris Bosh, creating a super team at a time when that concept was still becoming a major part of the NBA landscape. Then came elite role players like Ray Allen, one of the greatest shooters in basketball history. Suddenly, LeBron had spacing, championship experience, veteran leadership, and proven clutch ability surrounding him. Think about that legendary Game 6 three-pointer from Ray Allen. That moment doesn't happen in isolation. It came from a roster carefully built with the right pieces around LeBron. And that's the core of Webber's argument. This wasn't accidental, it was intentional.
There's been tens of thousands of players in the NBA throughout history. I have one man above LeBron James, and that's Michael Jordan.
This is where the conversation gets dangerous. Once you recognize that LeBron had a major influence on constructing some of his championship teams, you have to ask an uncomfortable question. Should that change the way we evaluate his championships? That doesn't mean erasing his accomplishments or claiming those titles don't count. It means looking at them with more context. Compare LeBron's approach with someone like Michael Jordan. Jordan stayed in Chicago instead of leaving to create a super team elsewhere. He endured the losses, stayed through the difficult years, and eventually won alongside a roster and system that developed over time. Kobe Bryant followed a similar path. He didn't leave the Lakers to recruit multiple stars and create championship teams somewhere else. Instead, he continued working within the Lakers organization and built his legacy there. Now, before anyone gets heated, let's be fair. LeBron didn't violate any rules. Free agency exists for a reason, and player empowerment has become a major part of today's NBA. In many ways, LeBron helped transform the league by showing players that they could take control of their careers instead of simply waiting for front offices to make every major decision. That is powerful, that is leadership, and that is influence. But this is exactly where Webber's argument becomes interesting. If you're actively involved in shaping the roster around you, then you're no longer functioning purely as a player. You're taking on elements of a general manager, a strategist, and even an architect of your own legacy. And that changes the conversation.
Great father, great husband, great businessman, philanthropy. I mean, he's phenomenal. Why is that necessary? Because you got people in his camp walking around. He's number 2 all time. Oh my God, shoot him. That's such a terrible, what an insult. Oh my God, I have you number 2.
Here's the part that almost everyone seems to overlook. LeBron's greatness may actually be too complicated to fit into traditional player comparisons. How exactly do you compare someone who dominates on the court while also having significant influence over roster decisions to players whose primary responsibility was simply controlling their own performance? Those are fundamentally different roles being judged under the same label. And that's one major reason the GOAT debate never seems to reach a final answer. Now let's look at the numbers, because this is where LeBron's case becomes incredibly difficult to dismiss. For championships, multiple finals MVP awards, the NBA's all-time scoring record, and nearly 2 decades of elite-level production. That combination of longevity and consistency is something the league has rarely, if ever, witnessed. You can debate his teammates, roster construction, and career decisions all day long, but you cannot manufacture that level of consistency. You cannot pretend to dominate at an elite level for nearly 2 decades. That goes beyond having great teammates. That is greatness.
I would challenge that.
You would challenge that?
Yes. Let me tell you why I would challenge it. I agree with you if you're taking LeBron from the time that he won against OKC and he won his first title.
This is where a lot of younger players make a major mistake. They assume greatness is simply about collecting accomplishments without looking at the context behind them. If that were the only thing that mattered, then the GOAT debate would have been settled a long time ago. But it hasn't. That's because fans, and especially former players, often care about more than just the final numbers. They care about how those accomplishments were achieved. The journey matters. The adversity matters. The level of control a player had over his circumstances matters. And that is exactly what Webber is highlighting. There's also an important part of Webber's perspective that shouldn't be overlooked. He's speaking as someone who never won an NBA championship. That experience matters. He knows what it feels like to come incredibly close and still walk away without a title. He understands what it means to depend on a team system, front office decisions, roster construction, and sometimes even the luck involved in putting the right pieces together at the right time. So when Webber looks at someone like LeBron, who has actively influenced the environment and teams around him, he naturally brings a different perspective to the discussion. Not jealousy, not bitterness, perspective.
LeBron to me is the hardest when you have he's a small forward, but he had a point guard mindset with like a scoring mentality. Out of the 3 of them, how about this one? Out of the 3 of them, he's the worst scorer coming into the league out of the 3.
Meanwhile, the NBA landscape continues to evolve because of the influence LeBron has had on the league. Look at players like Kevin Durant and the major decisions he has made throughout his career. Look at the constant movement of star players, the formation of partnerships, and the calculated choices being made around team building. LeBron didn't simply compete on the court. He helped change how NBA players approach their careers away from it. And even his biggest critics have to acknowledge that impact. But the conversation becomes even more fascinating when you look at today's younger generation of stars. Players like Luka Doncic and Jason Tatum are watching this entire debate unfold in real time. They have to decide what kind of careers they want to build. Do they remain loyal to one organization and develop slowly over time? Or do they take control of their careers and strategically shape their surroundings? Similar to the path LeBron established? That's the real ripple effect of this debate. It isn't only about what happened in the past. It could influence how the next generation approaches the future. And this is where the GOAT conversation becomes much more complicated. It's no longer simply LeBron versus Jordan. It becomes a debate about philosophy. Old school versus new school. System versus control. Loyalty versus flexibility. Once you look at greatness through that lens, there may never be one definitive answer. There may simply be different ways to define what greatness truly means.
The Lakers are the biggest disappointment of the 2022 season. But LeBron James, he says he's having the time of his life.
LeBron supporters will tell you, and they have a valid point, that every great player needed help. Michael Jordan had Scottie Pippen. Kobe Bryant had Shaquille O'Neal. Tim Duncan had Tony Parker and Manu Ginobili. Basketball has always been a team sport. No superstar wins championships completely on their own. But Webber's argument isn't really about whether LeBron had help. It's about where that help came from and how it was assembled. Was the supporting cast developed naturally over years? Or was it strategically put together to maximize a superstar's chances of winning? And here's the uncomfortable part. Both sides have legitimate arguments. That's exactly what makes this debate so frustrating, and at the same time, so fascinating. There's no denying LeBron's greatness, but there's also no denying that his career path has been unique. And when you're discussing the greatest player of all time, being different can either strengthen your argument or make the comparison even more complicated. Then there's the media factor. Sports networks, podcasts, analysts, former players. Everyone has something to say about it. And that's because controversy creates conversation. This is the kind of basketball debate that simply refuses to disappear. One comment from Webber turned into a much bigger cultural conversation across the basketball world. That alone shows you just how sensitive and how unresolved this topic really is. So where does that leave us? Right where the NBA has always been at its best. Debate, disagreement, emotion, and passion. Because if there were one obvious answer, we wouldn't still be arguing about it. The reality is that greatness doesn't have one permanent definition. It changes depending on the era, the perspective, and the values people use to judge it. And now, everything comes down to one major question. What do you value more? Is it the ability to dominate within a system you didn't completely control? Or is it the ability to take control of your environment and give yourself the best possible opportunity to win? LeBron represents one side of that equation, while players like Jordan represent another. Chris Webber didn't settle the GOAT debate. He didn't erase LeBron's accomplishments or destroy his legacy. What he did was make people stop and think. He pushed fans to look beyond the obvious, examine the details, and question assumptions they may have accepted for years. And that's exactly why his comments hit so hard. So now the question goes to you. Was Webber speaking an uncomfortable truth, or simply stirring up the debate? Does LeBron's influence over his teams make his greatness even more impressive? Or does it make his legacy more complicated? Because however you answer that question, you're not just choosing between LeBron and Jordan. You're choosing what you believe greatness itself should mean.